Well, this month marks the 1-year anniversary of the day when the COVID-19 pandemic just literally spread across America, shutting things down and having us shelter in place. And in fact, we learned some new terminology, things like social distancing, which I don't ever remember thinking about social distancing until about a year ago. But this last year, this COVID-19 pandemic has changed life for us in so many ways. And this idea of social distancing has had an impact on our ability to connect with people. And certainly God made us as relational beings to connect person to person. And a significant part of sharing the gospel is that connection that we have with people. Well, when I think about that kind of connections that we have with people, I'm so thrilled today to be able to have April Warfield with me. April serves as our Director of Multicultural Ministries for the EFCA. And we were, in fact, April and I were in a meeting together about a month ago or so, and she shared a story about something in her local church in the Los Angeles area that just captivated my heart. And so, April, thank you for being willing to come on and share with me today, because I know your heart and the heart of your church is to be able to take the message of the gospel, even during this era, this year where we had to wrestle with the issue of social distancing, et cetera, to be able to take the message of the gospel to build those bridges to communities with people who are marginalized and broken and desperately in need of Jesus. So thanks for coming on and sharing with us today. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon.
Well, April, first, how has your church stepped out and helped your local community during this time of social distancing? Tell us a little bit of that story.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit, also frame it for people a little bit about our church. We're a suburban church in Los Angeles County. We're in a beach community and about 30 years old, and we've probably have about 400 to 500 members. And so we're located surrounded by aerospace and technology companies. And so a number of our congregants are from that industry. And our mission is simply passionately pursue God, healthy relationships with others, and people who don't know Jesus. And so part of this interruption of COVID, during this interruption of COVID, our elders asked themselves this question: how are we doing with our mission? And so in fleshing that out, they acknowledge that we have room to grow in this area of evangelistic efforts. And that has definitely been a part of the journey and story of our church for many years. For a number of years, we focused very heavily on overseas missions, and we support a broad swath of missionaries around the globe. And then about 7 years ago, we began to seek God for a vision for local missions. And actually, Kevin, in preparing for this conversation, I was looking through some of our missions notes, and I saw this section that I wanted to just share really quickly. We were deciding whether we should include local missions as a budget item. And so the note went, we may not know what local outreach looks like right now, but we can start preparing and saving to reach those who need Jesus, and making a budget item will help us be mindful and intentional. And so a lot of times, churches are really unclear about what steps to take, and that's the same for us. But what we were clear about, we were very clear about our mission, and we were clear that we wanted to more fully live out the Great Commission and the Great Commandment. And so with that, we began prioritizing and building relationships with gospel-focused ministries and churches that share our vision and our value to reach the lost. And so one of our partnerships that has been a long-term partnership with our church is First EV Free, downtown Los Angeles. And that church was founded by Swedish immigrants in 1913. And you'll get a kick out of this. The cornerstone on the building reads, "Erected to the glory of God and the salvation of souls."
Wow.
That's so wonderful. And that church continues to do the work of serving an immigrant population today. They're serving people from El Salvador, and they found themselves in the epicenter of COVID-19 here in Los Angeles. And so they were phenomenal guides for us in ways that we could support them that were both healthy for them and safe for us. And so I can't overstate the role that cultivating long-term partnerships has played in our ability to serve during COVID. The trust factor was huge. We could trust them that they would act with sound judgment, and we trusted that they would give us good direction. They always have. And they could trust that we would be good listeners as they directed us. And as we know in missions work, sometimes it's really easy to overstep a boundary when you're serving together, even when you have the best intentions. And so I'll just share a couple of things that we've done over the course of this season. We've partnered with one of our local church plants who meets at the YMCA, and that YMCA became a food distribution for the school district. And so here's the cool part about that partnership for me was that we had a missionary couple who wasn't able to go go overseas. And so they led our church in serving locally at the YMCA with one of our church plant partners who holds their services there. Another partnership that we've had with them over the years is a drama ministry. And so that ministry was able to shift direction. So now they're able to provide meals for the families that were typically a part of this ministry. There's been a number of ways that we've been able to invest, mostly because we've had really good partnerships. And the project that you and I discussed, which is the scariest for us, it's new for us. While we were helping, we learned that the students in that area, because they've been impacted by COVID, and they've not gotten the services that they were promised from our school district as it relates to technology. And so there's a teacher on our team, and she really helped us understand that that it wasn't right. Like, the system wasn't working for these students while it was working really well for students in our district. And so we've committed to being an advocate for those students and writing letters to the school district. And then just one last thing on the horizon for us. Our church is located in an industrial park. And so our leadership has been processing through how we might use our Sunday coffee kitchen that's typically open just one day a week in the patio for gathering. What might it look like for us to open that during the week for the people who work in that area and use that outdoor patio area as a coffee kitchen, Wi-Fi, and that just gives us another opportunity to build relationships with our neighbors.
And April, hearing you share those things, the idea of both partnership that's based on shared values and trusting relationships over time, and then intentionality of saying where are the needs and how could we walk together with someone to help meet those needs. Those are incredibly practical things as we think about ways that we can engage even during a time of social distancing. So what led your church to take some of these additional steps? I mean, what was going on internally in just within you as leadership of the church?
Yeah, it was a dual purpose. We just, when you hear needs that exist, when as COVID was being televised and you hear of all the challenges that churches were facing, we really had a desire to stand with our ministry partners and meet the needs of their communities. Both communities that we helped were disproportionately impacted by COVID. And so as church family, we're family. Their needs became our needs. And we just wanted to be a part of what God was doing in those communities and be a part of the relief that was needed. And then the other was just our congregants, right? We could just sense that God was telling people to go and to be present by the way they were, people were calling and asking, are there places that we can serve? And so we just wanted to be present. We wanted to be obedient, even in a season of social distancing. And so we instituted those safety protocols and observed the state mandates and answered the call. We answered the call to go.
I think oftentimes we can see a need, and one of the first things we may respond is to say, wow, that's terrible. That's a significant need there. Let's raise some money. And certainly funding is necessary, but there are times where the Lord says, what I need is you. I need you to go, and to do it certainly in a safe way, but to do it in a way that shows that heart commitment that comes out of the love of God for people who don't know Jesus. who are living in the margins and some of those broken communities to be able to bring the love of Christ to them. April, lastly, what would you share with other leaders that they're not sure what to do, of how they should engage their local communities? Any just words of encouragement you might share with them?
Kevin, I would recommend prayer. It may sound trite, but for us, it was just very much a journey of prayer, consistently praying, God, how would you have us step into these spaces? So I would say, ask God for guidance, and, fear and uncertainty are very much a part of the season for us, for all of us. And so, just begin with prayer. Secondly, I would recommend evaluating your current church and ministry partnerships. A number of our leaders are in ministerial alliances. Are you learning from your peers? Are there people that are doing this work that you can join? Are there opportunities to strengthen relationships and partnerships that you already have? And then I would recommend looking inside your congregation. Who among you is living out the Great Commandment and the Great Commission? Chances are there are people in your congregation with whom you can join their work. And that happened in our church as well. Our mission team was able to grow by inviting people to the table who were doing ministry work on their own. One ministry was Loads of Love, where a couple of people in the church were just going to a laundromat, having gospel conversations with people, sharing detergent, sharing coins. So look among you and see who's doing that type of work and join that.
Wow.
And then the last bit of advice I would give would just be to be encouraged. Be encouraged. These are unprecedented times, and they call for unprecedented grace. Be gracious with yourselves, be gracious with one another, and lean into God's grace in all of this. His grace is sufficient. Right? And it's in our weakness that his strength is made perfect. And so I encourage you to go with God's strength.
April, I couldn't have said it any better. What a great encouragement to us. This idea that it starts with us looking up, right? Saying, Lord, would you show us? Yeah. And in a sense, looking inward, say, what are you doing inside of me? What are you doing within our congregation? Who are you bringing to us? And then looking outward, saying, Lord, who's out there that you would have us engage? And thank you so much for what you've shared. And April, I'm thrilled for the ministry that you have across the EFCA in your role as our Director of Multicultural Ministries, and multi-ethnic ministries, but also as I think about the ministry that you have in your local church there in Los Angeles. Bless you. And please say thanks to the folks in your church for what they're doing on behalf of the EFCA.
I will.
Really making a difference.